What is good, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video. And in this one, I want to break down what's happening with Tesla, SPY, Nvda, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. And break down what's happening with the economic calendar moving forward, what's going on with the news involving the markets and Tesla, what you should be watching for as time progresses. But before we get into devil's information, before I get into any more details, let me just mention a couple of things. I am personally not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo and deposit $100, you're guaranteed 7 free stocks, and the offer ends in just 4 days from now. Anyways, for Tesla, we have a very, very important range right here. We have resistance at this 175 area. We have support at 173.25. And Tesla's been going back and forth all day since the pre-market, so we want to see which way this breaks to determine the bigger move. I just want to talk about a couple of things coming out in the headlines first. Let me just note that for today, it's Friday, May 24th, 2024. We're gonna have Waller giving a speech 5 minutes after the market opens, and then 30 minutes after open, we have the main piece of data with the Michigan Consumer Sentiment Report coming out, the 5-year inflationary expectations, and more data coming out when it comes to consumer conditions. So I'll be watching for some volatility 30 minutes after the market opens. For more data, you have to know is that right now we'll be watching for a couple of things about the way the market's moving. Nvidia isn't really enough to lead the whole market. There's truth behind that. The market did push very, very nicely in the morning, but it wasn't really enough for the markets to hold up. The market did not sustain the levels we saw. We saw a big sell-off, despite the fact that Nvidia was holding up very well. So there's also news coming out that the SEC has enacted a rule change to allow the creation of ETFs that buy and hold it there. So that's very, very important for Ethereum and the people out there who are very interested in it. That's very important as well for the development of crypto. So that's something else worth noting. There's also some talk over how the U.S. Department of Justice is suing to break up the entertainment company Live Nation. There's been a lot of talk about that. Some talk also is coming out that insurance costs are also dipping a little bit for auto companies. Besides that, I'm not really seeing anything else too crazy that's going on, at least on headlines. Now, when it comes to the options chain, please know that currently we have over about 320,000 calls expiring, and we have over 550,000 puts expiring for 1.76 put to call ratio. So we'll see how this ends up affecting the markets. It's not like there's an insane amount of options expiring, but this is something worth noting that we could see this affect the way the market moves to some extent. Now, as far as Tesla goes, there's been a lot of headlines coming out that saying that Tesla's dropping the 20 million delivery goal. I just want to say it right here. When Tesla was giving us the latest reports, they didn't really mention that. They didn't really talk about the 20 million vehicles to be delivered by 2030. This could be a sign that the company is moving away from EVs and shifting on robotaxis. But like I said in my earlier video, I wouldn't solely depend on that because Tesla hasn't really commented on that. If Tesla doesn't comment on this, that doesn't necessarily mean we have to assume that they're completely dropping out of this goal. And even if they do drop out of this goal, you just have to know that that's very, very far into the future, many, many years ahead. So I wouldn't necessarily, become too negative over that. We're just going to focus on shorter time frames just to be safe. But because Tesla hasn't commented on this, we can't truly say that they're not going to achieve the goal, or at least aim and strive for it. There's no sign of that just yet, so I wouldn't make the assumption just yet. I think these headlines have to be careful with the way that they go about things. A lot of headlines are saying that Tesla's cutting production for the Model Y in China. That's what data is showing us. That is something else that's worth noting. This is actually trying to address weakening demand in the US, especially in China. That's also going to be very, very important for what's been going on. So, with potential production cuts coming out, it may be by double-digit percentages, at least according to reports. So, right here in Shanghai, Tesla's biggest manufacturing hub globally has planned to cut the Model Y output by at least 20% during the March to June period. That said, a person who declined to be named, as the matter is very, very private. And that's what some data is suggesting right over here. As you guys can see, the output is decreasing. We also saw a 17.7 and 33% decrease in output relative to what we saw during the previous months. So we are seeing some shifts right here, and that is because of slowing demand. So we'll see how things go with this moving forward. But that's actually very important because that makes me a little apprehensive about deliveries and such. So we had a lot of negative news that came out so far, but the question is, what's Tesla's reaction going to be? So as you guys can see, we love to kind of bounce off 172 to 173. We hit it right here. We bounced. Again, we bounced here, bounced here, bounced here. It happens many, many times. Our resistance is at 175. If we break through this, we'll be looking for 176.5 as resistance, followed by 178, and then 182. We have support currently at 173 to 172. If we lose that, we'll be looking at 170 as support. Overall, when it comes to the way that Tesla is moving, we're just shuffling right now between support. So I'll be watching to see what the big move is. We're very, very tight right now. If we kind of push a little bit with the markets and we break past 175, watch 176.5, we could get one little push for right here. But even if we do hit this resistance, we could actually make a move back down if we fail to break that area. So you want to not just break 175 and 176.5 to turn more bullish. And if you're bearish, you want to see it basically lose 172. If we lose that, there's going to be a bigger risk of more downside. Otherwise, we're just completely range bound right now. So what I'll be doing is I'll be watching to see what the move is, watch for a potential fake out if we do get a little fake pump or not. And I'm going to be very, very patient to see what the big breakout level happens to be. We do love to bounce off the support we're currently at. So we'll see if Tesla gets a little rebound first before we continue. But just to be safe, I'll be watching to see this range. It is possible Tesla tries to rebound and tries to retest our 20 to 50 EMA before turning back down. But we'll see what the reactions as soon as we open, because right now it's just range bound, going back and forth and back and forth. So I'll wait and see. Watch your levels, guys. See which way Tesla breaks, and that will determine the way you end up playing this. So watch for that very carefully. As far as SPY goes, SPY is trying to rebound a bit on the 4-hour time frame, but I would still be very careful because we still have a big gap to fill all the way down to 523. So, in my personal opinion, I wouldn't be surprised if we try to push a little higher. We could get very close to about the 528, and then we'll see if we get a rejection or not. If we reject off the 528, we're going to be dipping all the way back down towards 523, especially if we lose 525. And if we fail to do so, if we break past 528, we'll be looking for 530. So that's going to be a very, very big test on SPY. When you look at the daily time frame on SPY, please note that we still have this big gap to fill all the way down here. We could be doing that very soon. And the trend is still kind of weak on SPY, so I wouldn't necessarily turn too bullish overall. So I think what's going to happen to SPY is we're going to be testing the 528 range. If we reject off here, we'll be returning to 525. If that fails us, look for the gap fill all the way down to 523, and then these lower levels right here in the lower 520s as support, and see if we bounce off that. If we break past 528, then we could go all the way up to about 530 before we do see a rejection. So I'll be watching to see how high we go before we get that rejection. That's going to be a very big test for today. So we'll be watching for that very carefully. For the QQQ, it's the same thing essentially. We are trying to kind of rebound a little bit right now, but I'll be watching this on the 4-hour. On the 4-hour, you guys could see that we're approaching resistance at the 455.5 area, very close to 456, but we have a gap to fill all the way down here. We could push a little bit higher, in my opinion, to 456. If we get that rejection, we'll be looking for this gap fill down here at 453. And if that fails us, we'll look for 450. So look for the little pop. If we get a rejection, we're going to be dipping back down to fill this gap all the way down here at 453. If we lose to 453, so there's a risk of 450 coming. So watch and see how high we go and where we end up projecting. So look for a little pop and drop like move. And be very, very patient moving forward. For Nvda, we're trying to push very, very nicely up to these highs. If we break past 1,060, we're going to be looking for a bigger push from 1,080. If we end up losing support over here, very close to our 1,029 area, we're going to be looking for it to back down to 1,008. Overall, we're just range bound on Nvidia, so watch and see. If we lose 1,030, we turn more bearish. If we break 1,060, we're going to make a new all-time high. So give it some time. It's also very range bound. It might try to push a little bit upon open to retest the all-time high before we make a move back down. For Aapl, Apple's also kind of cooling off a little bit. We're going to try to push towards this 189 area, but watch and see if we get a rejection near our 20 EMA. So if we push a little bit higher, if we reject, we're going to be coming back down towards 186.5, if not lower. And if we end up breaking past 189.5, then look for 190. So I think it's going to pop a bit, then reject and come back down. I still think we have that gap below to fill. So look for a pop and drop like move in Apple and many stocks out there. One thing worth noting is that Bitcoin still kind of trading sideways. We have resistance currently at 60,600. If we break 67,600, look for 68,000. If we failed to do so, look for a rejection there. My gut tells me it might actually reject as we're just kind of struggling right here. So there's still that risk of the market cooling off just a bit. With that being said, guys, looking at Amazon, Amazon's kind of rebounding just a bit. Look for a test of 182, then 183. If we reject off that range, this 183 zone, then yes, we could come back down. If we lose 180, we're going to turn bearish. We haven't lost 180 yet, so we'll just have to see how we end up rebounding for now. For Meta Meta is also trying to push towards 168 and 172. So I think we could try to push a little bit higher towards this imbalance before we try to make our way back down. So look for a pop and drop like move. And then for Coinbase, it's the same thing. We're just kind of trading sideways. So I'll just give this some time. It's just trading between our key Fibonacci retracement areas between 215 and 227 for now. So be very patient, guys. We'll see how things end up going. Just know that right now, GME has that gap to fill in the 17s. Could dip a bit before it tries to bounce. So it might try to come a little bit lower. So just be careful with that. AMC as well could dip towards 4.5 or even a little bit lower before it tries to bounce. So we'll give these charts some time. With that being said, thank you all so much for listening. Tesla's completely range bound right now. It could attempt to pop when we open, but just be careful because once the data comes out, we'll see what the big reaction is for the markets. And we'll see how things end up going. Might try to pop first before it comes back down. But overall, there's a big range on Tesla. We'll see which way it breaks just to see what the first move is going to be. So watch it on a level basis. It's very indecisive right now. For the entire day, it's just been trading sideways. So we'll wait and see which way it breaks. And otherwise, Tesla is still range bound. And we'll see how things go during this big test. All right. Thank you for listening, guys. Have a good day. And I'll see you guys very soon on the next one. Thank you and peace out.